What's up, guys? Since Sumeru and Dendro's release, we have seen a nice buff to Electro and several Electro characters. After the long unheard cries of dedicated players everywhere, Keqing was finally given a buff that makes her competitively viable in the Genshin meta. And so today I wanted to discuss Keqing and specifically her Aggrevate team, which is her new best in slot team, and give a more in-depth analysis on how to bring out the most from this team comp and which Dendro character is the best for her. Many people have been equally hyping up Dendro Traveler as the best Dendro support in the game right now, and rightfully so. She was given a very solid kit when used in Dendro related comps. On the other hand, we have the free unit Collei, and I haven't seen her hyped up quite as much. I would like to discuss the differences and the ways in which one may have advantage over the other depending on your account and what's available to you. Introductions aside, I will start by sharing the builds I'm using for them. For Keqing, we have a 4-piece Thundering Fury set, as that's her new best in slot set with an Aggrevate team, given all of the benefits of Aggrevate damage bonus, which scales incredibly well with Aggrevate, as well as the cooldown bonus, which alleviates many of Keqing's other prior issues such as stamina loss. The weapon she's running will be an R5 Lion's Roar. This is her best 4-star weapon, as well as being one of her best in slot weapons. Even an R1 Mistsplitter is only marginally better, and for many day 1 Keqing mains and many day 1 players, you most likely have a Lion's Roar and multiple refinements of it, so this is a very, very good weapon that I would recommend for an Aggrevate team Keqing. For Traveler and Collei, they are both using the same 4-piece Noblesse Oblige, as I found this more beneficial than running the new Dendro set, since neither of them are primarily the ones doing all that much damage. In fairness, some of this is due to them being at a lower investment cost, in particular Collei, who I still only have at level 40 and unleveled talents, whereas Traveler is level 80 and has a couple of levels on her talents based on how much I've been able to farm them in the week that Sumeru has been out. It is possible at level 90 with max talents and greater investment in the Dendro artifacts that those could pull ahead in overall team damage, but it's still yet to be tested fully, at least on my end, and so I feel this is the best way to get the most damage out of Keqing and Fischl, who is the other person running in this comp. As for the weapons on Collei and Traveler, this is where things get incredibly interesting. On Traveler, I have equipped a R5 Sapwood Blade, currently only level 70, and this is the new completely free craftable weapon in Sumeru, unlocked once you do a bit of the world quest lines and are able to forge them at the smith. And you do need the Sumeru billets, but you can also get the Sumeru billets by converting your Northwood billets, or whatever they're called, the original billets. You can convert them with the conversion at the craft table, and so either way you can get the billet that you need. And so this is the new free-to-play weapon compared to Collei running a R1 level 90 Elegy of the End, which is arguably one of the best support weapons in the game, and not a lot of people will have it, but I want to do that specifically to show the power of the Sapwood Blade. The entire reason I wanted to make this video is because I don't think people understand just how good of a support Traveler can be with this weapon specifically equipped, in particular on this comp, and I'm sure in other Dendro related comps such as Hyper Bloom or Burgeon, it could be equally as effective. So first I wanted to look at the numbers in a raw sense, so I went to the Genshin optimizer and I plugged in all of the characters, their artifacts, weapons, and I tested the builds to see what produced the most damage. Here are the figures for Keqing, first with Collei on the team and her R1 Elegy as a baseline for our damage comparison. We can see here on the Aggrevate procs, importantly on her E, her elemental skill, and her burst slash, the final slash, which will always aggravate, and the charge attacks, which will often trigger the Aggrevate. Again, these are all parts of her kit that will trigger Aggrevate. These are very, very solid. And her damage on regular electro-infused hits that are not aggravated are also still very strong, as we can see in comparison next to it here. The biggest difference coming on the multi-slash part of her ult, which is expected, as Aggrevate will give the biggest damage boost to lower scaling fast attacks, very similar to how Yunjin's buff works. Of course, she can't aggravate every single slash due to ICD, and so it's important that her normal slash damage is still respectable. And of course, with Collei and Elegy, we still have a very solid baseline of damage there. Now, moving on to Traveler's portion, here are the damage figures from Keqing with Aggrevate after picking up the passive buff from the Sapwood Blade. And these numbers, for all intents and purposes, are essentially identical. Incredibly, the slash damage with Aggrevate is actually higher, and this is likely due to the EM that the Traveler is able to provide, which is more than Collei and Elegy is able to. Both the Sapwood itself gives more EM, and Traveler, her A4 passive, gives more EM as well. And here are Keqing's numbers on her non-aggravate attacks. Again, not a lot of damage loss here on her normal or charge attacks or consecutive slashes, aka the parts you may not be aggravating on a lot of the time. And let's not forget, again, this is a comparison of a completely free-to-play craftable support weapon and one of the best 5-star support gacha weapons in the game. And just for the sake of another direct comparison for Traveler, I also added the Freedom Sworn into the optimizer, which I don't have in the game myself, but I put it on Traveler in the optimizer to see how it would do, and the damage comparison here compared to its direct 4-star competitor is quite remarkable. You can see that the Sapwood is essentially as powerful as a weapon you could potentially spend hundreds of dollars to acquire. There's almost no difference in a Freedom Sworn buff and a Sapwood Blade buff for an Aggrevate Keqing. Now, all these numbers on paper are good, but how does this work in practice? Well, I've gone through the grueling work of fighting the Primo Geovishep multiple times in order to find out. First up, let's see the Keqing team with Collei as the main support. The other two units in this team, as I stated before, will be a Fischl with a 2-piece Shiminawa, 2-piece Thundering Fury, and a level 80 Stringless at R5. This is a very common build for Fischl. More than likely, this is what most people will be running. And Kazuha with a Favonius Sword and a full EM Viridescent Veneer set. These are bar none the best two other team slots for an Aggrevate Keqing team. Fischl, I would say, is pretty much a requirement, and Kazuha is the best Anemo support you can pick. You can go with someone else, whether you want Jean because you need heals, or Sayu for the same reason, or going Sucrose, who can also share EM and use Thrilling Tales. They all provide certain things that Kazuha can't, but Kazuha still, between his own personal buff and damage, is the best 4th slot and the best Anemo character for this specific team. For the sake of this damage test, it will be equal for both of them, so if you take Kazuha out of the equation and want to put in a different Anemo character for your own party's sake, if you don't have Kazuha or don't want to use him for this team, then just know there's essentially the equal amount of drop off in damage from losing Kazuha, so the numbers won't be reflected that differently. And now let's look at the Keqing team with Traveler and the Sapwood Blade as the main Dendro enabler. So no practical damage test can be perfect, and the time difference here I would equate more so to user error as opposed to DPS differential. In the Traveler fight, for example, the Geovishap hurt itself since I was lucky enough to get a shield from a crystallize reaction, so that didn't require me to hit another rotation of Keqing burst or charge attack spam. So again, I would take the time difference as simply RNG and user discrepancy, because what we can observe in the numbers on screen are very much reflective of what the optimizer is showing us, and that is that these two builds are equally as strong and equally as powerful. All in all, this is a very viable and fun team that really lets our best girl Keqing shine as she was always meant to. My recommendation would be immediately go and craft 5 Sapwood Blades and equip it on Traveler, because I believe any Dendro related team that wants her would benefit from this weapon. As far as whether you should use Traveler or Collei, I think that's up to you and what you want to run. Collei is a little comfier insofar as you don't have the annoyance of picking up something off the ground to acquire the buff. It just applies as you switch back to Keqing, so there is the benefit that in many combat scenarios where chasing an enemy around can leave your Sapwood Leaf in an unfortunate spot, you won't have that problem. Also, Traveler does have more energy issues than Collei, however, at around 200 plus ER and eventually getting her C1, which you will get for free, I feel this issue is relatively mitigated and easy to manage. And that's going to be all for this video. I hope this in-depth comparison was helpful to you other Keqing mains out there looking to maximize our day 1 main now that she is finally meta viable. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing and letting me know if you want more videos like this in the future. Have a good one. Oh, and stay comfy, gang.